Welcome back. We are in episode 3 of the Art for Evolution podcast. I am your host, Afro Da Vinci. I'm here with a very, very special guest. This is actually a good friend of mine. I just came from his art show. It was his first exhibit. It's called Give Thanks, an Ode to Gratitude. Very proud of this brother. He's like the mayor of the art world, and we're going to talk about that. He's a very popular guy. Mr. J.A. Medcalf, is that...
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got to put some respect on it, man.
Yeah.
Welcome to the platform.
Yes, thank
you
man.
for coming through, man. We have a great show. He inspires a lot of topics for me to talk about. One of the main things that we want to really hit on is, just keeping your art relevant and current and in time with the culture. Joe is someone who is very relevant and current. I can look at his art and it's reflective of where we are right now. And, I think that's a really dope thing in an artist. So that's going to be one of the main topics. I do want to touch back on, what we just came off of, Give Thanks, an Ode to Gratitude. This is his first show. So coming off the show, man, one thing that I noticed, it was a packed house.
Yeah, man.
It was a packed house.
It was.
Man.
It was lit.
It's an art show, and it's literally like shoulder to shoulder, like a real event, man.
Yeah.
And I was proud to see that as someone who feels that, the art world is where it's at. That's the turn up. Yeah. So for me to see all those people in one room, I thought that was dope, man.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that, man.
Thank you.
How do you feel about that?
Thank you, man. It was an amazing experience. Like it was one of those things. I really put my heart and soul and everything that I had into it. Leading up to that show, I had over the last 3 years, as far as just like the inception of like my artistic career, probably have participated in about 30 public showings, 30 public shows, or and that goes from group exhibitions to live paints to any form of public presentation. And so putting together that exhibition for myself as my debut solo, it was really taking a culmination of all of that and throwing it in one pot of gumbo, figuring out what works, what didn't work, and putting together a good formula that will allow people to really enjoy and really immerse themselves in the experience. And I couldn't be any more happier with how that whole thing turned out. So thanks for being there, man.
Oh, no doubt. Wouldn't miss it for the world, man.
Yeah.
And I do want to touch on the fact that you're a very special guest because as I was starting my clothing brand, Walking Art brand, it was actually called Art for Evolution. A lot of people don't know that. And that, story was... It was an affirmation that we wanted to get out there, and Joe was one of the first artists that we featured in the merch. So that was very special to me, and now we have come full circle with the Art for Evolution podcast. And Joe is he was one of the first artists that we had in the merch, and one of the first guys that I sat down and we did something similar to this, but now we have the full-on podcast. So, man, thank you for being there for that.
Man. Yeah, absolutely, bro. Like, you've been rocking with me, bro, since, like, the very beginning. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so when you tapped in and we're launching, Walking Art, that was, right, perfect timing with what I was doing with even my own creative career as well too. So that was kind of helping each other out. Definitely. You know what I'm saying, in the respect. So much appreciated.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Collaboration is key. Now I want to get back to your show. Give Thanks. What is the inspiration behind that title? It's such a potent title. It's like an affirmation.
Yeah, man. So that whole thing really, man. All right. So let me just back up a little bit. So that show was 3 years in the making.
Okay.
And I once believed that I was going to execute my debut exhibition in 2018, but I came to terms and realized I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready from a standpoint of A, honing my craft, B, having a good narrative to push that would flow through the whole event. And so I really had to do a lot of self-reflection, and the whole Give Thanks, really came back down to just a general mood and just a general feeling that I have been just feeling in this season of my life. And I'm just like really in this space of just gratefulness to the people and the experiences, the L's I've taken, like everything that's happened to get me to this point. I am personally grateful for it. And what really pushed it over the edge was really a song. And it was a song, Thank You, off of DJ Khaled's album. And it was actually, it was a song though that was rapped by Big Sean. And so, you know, the whole premise of like that song was just kind of giving thanks to everything that's happened to get Big Sean to the point that he is now in his career in 2019. Yeah. So I like when I heard it for the first time, I immediately resonated with it, and immediately off top I was like, that's it. And I took that and I just ran with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what do you think that gratitude kind of personally means to you? Do you think that's like a important, you know, component in, you know, not just your personal life, but just as an artist, like you?
Yeah, you know, I mean, so art inspires art, you know what I mean? Yeah. And just like me just being a student of the game, you know, I study a lot of the, you know, notable artists that have gone before us, you know, and that's doesn't necessarily have to come from a visual art form, but just anybody that has like pushed any type of creative narrative. And so I am personally grateful for those people that have gone before me to, you know, kick down doors, break through barriers, to give me a space and a privilege of being able to express myself in the way that I have. So, you know, I think that's a part of gratefulness. I think that's a part of gratitude. But, you know, more than anything, I'm grateful for my tribe. I call anybody that, you know, has ever been a supporter of what I've been doing, a previous buyer, anybody that's ever attended my show, a like, a share, a comment, whatever, that's all a part of that same tribe. And so I don't have one of those stories of like, oh, you never believed in me and this is for all of my haters or anything like that. That's not how my story is written. My story is standing on the shoulders of the people that have lifted me up, you know what I'm saying, this whole time, and for that I'm super grateful for it.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up. I want to go back very briefly to just the culture and the ambiance of your show.
Yeah.
You know, I was really noticing how everyone felt like family. It was like a community, and you know, you got people, you know, reuniting with folks, and you got people also, you know, meeting new people, and everyone felt comfortable. You know, I feel that in the art world there's a bit of pretentious culture in certain spaces, but your space felt like home. It felt like when you put that soul into the culture, and I feel like that's what's missing from the culture. I think that what draws a lot of our people away from you know, going into those spaces, because sometimes it can feel a little uptight with the crackers and cheese and wine. You know?
But, for sure.
But you know, yours, you know, you got the music going, and people vibing, having a good time. Yeah. So do you feel that it's important to curate that type of energy on purpose? Yeah.
So man, every aspect of that event I touched and was very intentional on how it was to come off, what that experience was to be. What's the real root of my creative work is I want people to feel something at the end of the day. If that's joy, if that's happiness, if that is a reflection of a memory of a past experience, something that you can relate to, all of that is what I want you to experience when you see my artistry. But when you come into my space that I'm producing, I really want you to feel those things as well too. And so I really kind of wanted to take my own home environment as far as the atmosphere that I like to create in and amplify that in a much bigger space and allow people to come into what that space was to be and feel comfortable. You know what I mean? I guess the general feeling or feedback that I've kind of received is that A lot of times art, the art world can be a little intimidating.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, to approach. And so somebody like me, I understand that I may bear a weight of being a catalyst or being a introduction into that world.
Right.
And so if that is my responsibility to do, okay, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? And let's bring everybody with us, the mamas, the cousins, the uncles, you know what I'm saying? And we all gonna enjoy this. It doesn't have to be, that stale, uptight, stuffy kind of feeling. Like, no, we can vibe, we can enjoy, you know what I'm saying, this artwork that is of the culture, that is of relevant content that maybe you and I may be familiar with, and rock out from there, and that's kind of what's the space and type of vibe I want to curate.
Oh, love how you put that. I feel that it is our space and our time to be that catalyst for the culture. It's such a dope thing, but a lot of people, like you said, just the perception is that's something outside of me. I noticed Gallery Bouchard is on like 47th King Drive, and it's just interesting that in the community it's surrounded by, I watch people like literally walk right past it, don't even look at it, because it's just like subconsciously it's just something that they are unfamiliar with, and that's probably for rich white people or something like that. But it's right here, right in the community, and I really want to break down some of those barriers. It's gold in there.
No, it is, man, and I definitely have to say shout out to Gallery Bouchard, man, because that's really was one space I was able to kind of get up. It was kind of the first time I ever exhibited on somewhat of a larger stage. But I know their intentions as well too is to be able to introduce people into this creative space that we know, and it was very important for them to kind of set up shop right there in Bronzeville, you know what I'm saying, as well. And so hopefully be able to work with them moving forward, but I have a good relationship with Andre.
Shout out to Andre, man. That's my guy. I want to speak to, because a part of this podcast is educational purposes too. It took a lot to, put that show together. Can you kind of give the people some tips on what it takes to make a successful first show?
Man, that was a lot. Man. You definitely need the time. I think the thing that people realized and respected from the show was I feel like people were able to see the intentional work and the labor and intensive planning that went into producing something like that. There was no corners that were cut, and that was just something that I was very passionate about giving in as far as the first introduction. But first thing is setting aside the time. To make a plan. I think secondly would be to build out a team. That's not anything that I could have executed on my own. I went back and I sent out like thank yous and recognition announcements to any donors, sponsors, vendors, and volunteers. And really that list exceeded 30. It exceeded 30 key partners, and I worked with in order to bring something like that together. Wow. So, it was a pretty robust team that I ended up using. And one key person ended up being Missy Perkins. She actually served as my curator, and she walked with me every step of the way. But and then the other component is you do need a little bit of capital, just to as far as just something to kind of start with. In my case, I went the road less traveled with producing your exhibition, because with mine was independently produced. Mine was not with any galleries. It wasn't in combination with any artist coalitions. It started with my vision and me building out kind of that team to do so, and pretty much me putting up my own money to kind of make that happen. And so that was just a way for me to kind of take a bet on myself. But I had never taken that type of risk on myself before. But after weighing it all out, it wound up being a very calculated risk. And calculated risk are going to be more so things I will lean into. But it wound up being very fruitful after the extensive planning, working with the teams, working with the key partners, working with delegation, to be able to hand out different tasks and, just fill in different holes that, just because I can do something, maybe it's not wise for me to do it. So let me hand this off to you, and I'll spend my time over here doing this. And if I need to come back and, give some feedback as far as, hey, I think this should be this way. Yeah. It wound up just being a better end result kind of for everybody to experience. So I think those would probably be some good points to start with.
Okay, so I hope y'all got that. Got some game in there. Yeah. That's dope. Because it definitely, when you're an artist and you're trying to figure out how to break into this world,
yes,
it's kind of intimidating. It takes a lot of time, of course, but it takes a lot of money to create these pieces and to find a space and to invite everybody, and it just takes a lot. So I always like to shed light on the process. Yeah. So I think you gave an excellent breakdown. That kind of leads me into my next question, like the importance of creating your own lane and breaking into this art world. I see you as someone who just kind of got out here and just, started doing your thing. And I feel one thing that I've noticed about you is that you're very intentional with creating relationships. Like I'm out a lot, you're out a lot, and I always run into you. Yep. And I already know what you're doing, because I think the same way. If I'm out, enjoying myself, I want to create some contacts and, create relationship build. It's always an opportunity to, kind of benefit from that as well. Yep. Not just hanging out. So just talk a little bit about the importance of creating your own lane and how you are creating your lane in this art world.
Man, so I think the intentional factor that you touched on, just like, man, that hit it right on the head, because I have found that I've become a lot more intentional on how I choose to spend my time. Yes, we do run into each other like out on the scene or whatever, but usually speaking, don't get me wrong, you gotta go and have a good time and maybe, chill out sometimes. But a lot of times, like if you do see me out, I am going intentionally to speak to somebody or, just build a relationship in some type of way. But, I think, with the whole intentional factor, as far as like even in my artistry, it's important. It's important for me to create the type of work that I enjoy. And as far as I will never create something that I'm not comfortable with. And so as far as like even creating my own lane in whatever regard that may be, at the end of the day, the individuality that is like birthed in you is like just true to you. So leaning into that, or just on your own is like something that no one else will be able to reduplicate. So I think the moment that I kind of realized that was kind of the moment that I gained that confidence in what I was doing, and knowing that that was a part of my passion, that was aligned with my purpose, and that allowed me to be able to kind of start to create this larger footprint that will be associated with my legacy even after I'm gone.
Right. Yeah. Stepping into your own thing.
Yeah.
That's dope. With that being said, this is kind of like a world where a lot of people are represented, either through a gallery or a curator or an institution. Do you have representation yourself?
I don't have any formal representation in any regards. I have personal relationships. Yeah. In which I have people I can call upon, if I would be in need of a media partner, or if I need just even some personal advice. But as far as formalized, this organization represents Jay Medcalf, like, no, I don't have that. I'm always open to those conversations, but it has to be something that kind of makes sense. Yeah. And so, even with this like debut exhibition, I very well could have gone to any local gallery around and be like, hey, I want to have my show here. And, they probably would have put me through whatever vetting process that was. And if they did agree, they probably would have wanted 50% of my sales. And, it's just like industry standard. But, I just kind of felt that instead of coming out the gates with, a formalized representation or formalized partnership in which, you're compromising, maybe even some of your sales or potential revenue, that, really, I can lean on my personal relationships and be just as fine.
Yeah.
And so, I think maybe once I hit a certain plateau or tier within this path, maybe we go and explore some of those options. But as of right now, it's
good.
Yeah. Things have been cool. Things have been cool. So I don't shy away from those type of conversations, but I don't run and seek a lot of those out either.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a new era. We're in the internet era.
Yeah.
We're in the person-to-person era. We're in the era of independence.
Yeah.
So, we're kind of discovering more options than the traditional ways of a gallery and people taking 50% and different things like that, where you can get straight to, the people that appreciate your work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurialism at its finest.
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking with B-Land on the last episode about the marriage of art and business.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some artists that are just completely right-brained and they just want to be free and create and, do that. And then you have people that, have good business and they think about strategy and, the marriage of those two can be a great thing. But, if you got someone who is aware of the business and aware of the finance and the strategy and the marketing, that's always a beautiful thing to be able to combine that in one. Would you consider yourself that type of person?
Oh, definitely, man. So, I mean, some people know, some people don't. I don't really hide it, but I don't really highlight it either. But I still have a full day career.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I kind of come from more of a corporate space.
Yeah.
And going through school, I was, a business major.
Okay.
As well as ended up finishing my degree from Western Michigan with a degree in marketing.
Right.
And so a lot of that experience has really helped to set the structure and give me some foundation to build off of the God-given talent that I was given. And so I know talent isn't necessarily going to be enough to break through in whatever space or lane that I'm trying to go down. But if I'm able to apply a little bit of maybe business acumen, maybe some good prayer, you know what I mean? And, maybe just some past experiences, then it gives me a greater competitive advantage, you know what I mean? To be able to take that talent and scale that up, you know what I mean? In a certain type of way. So I am heavily influenced by those past experiences of my day career, and just some lessons even I learned through college and, early on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, man. It seems that you have both those sides of the brain working. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me to the next point. We were kind of talking, pre-production about this piece here.
Oh, yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind sharing with the people.
Yeah, man. So really this piece here is called Passive Aggression. And I actually debuted this one at my last exhibition. It was probably one of the most inquired or just pieces that I got somewhat of the most feedback from. Yeah. This one was a little different than a lot of my other creations that I've made, but this one really came from more of a internal. It was birthed and inspired from more of an internal conflict that I have, and really birthed from a place of frustration. Yeah. And so the whole intention was to see a person on the outside, somebody may be suited and booted, have a nice suit on, a nice tie, looks real presentable or whatever, but on the inside, the person is very conflicted, is going through whatever issues that they may be going through. And so kind of wants to show that in a form of somewhat of a nuclear explosion that is happening internal here inside this man's head. And so The feedback that I got on this one was so good that I really wanted to turn this whole thing into like its own like series.
Man.
I'm actually kind of in a spot now of trying to figure out how I want to build that out even further. So I'm really excited about what this one is doing and some of the things that we're gonna do. And so this one is actually going down to Miami.
Okay. Nice.
I'll be heading out to Art Basel to show this even further. And so looking forward to what that is to bring.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Yeah. I mean, I think this is like the staple of the artists and the struggle that creatives go through, and it's having to find a way in this world and just financially sustain yourself, but be able to live out your dream and create. And until things line up. So I've had this conversation with several people, and I just think it's so vital. I think any creative could appreciate that, but just any person that is has to do what they have to do, but on the inside they just want to be free. No, for sure, man. Like I really feel like, I mean, art saved me, what I mean? Art really saved me from more of the mundane that was in my immediate future that I saw coming through the pipeline. And I've never been one that's been afraid of like work by any means. I've always went super hard in like whatever that I was doing, but for the longest time it really took me some time to kind of figure out what direction I'm supposed to be going hard in. You know what I mean? And so fortunately going back to about 2015 is where I was able to kind of tap back into my creative giftings or my creative interests and really kind of go hard in that lane. So finding some stability and finding some greater purpose and passion and things like that to be able to kind of live this out really helped me through. So now I'm kind of in a stage now of figuring out, okay, now that I've doubled down on this, now that I'm so sure and certain about it, how can we take this, elevate it, scale it up, and make it really sustainable? Yeah. That's lit. I would say from your work and the things that you said, I think that your work is always culturally important, and it's very relevant with the times. And it reminds me of an artist that I admire, Andy Warhol. Yeah, he actually has an exhibit up at the Art Institute.
Man, I just saw the ads about that, man. That's dope.
Yeah, and you give me those vibes, like the Black Andy Warhol, Jeremy Warhol, the Jerome Warhol.
Hey man, that's a fact, man. I'll take it though. I'll take it.
Just in the style that your work is so relevant and concurrent with the times. I think Warhol was kind of a futurist in that way. He saw the idea of celebrity, and he understood back then, like, this is going to be a big thing. I can create icons out of making these subjective images, and kind of created the pathway for Instagram and these apps and selfies and all of that. And I think that was so revolutionary in a sense, just because it was ahead of his time.
Yeah, man. I thought Warhol was kind of dope just by taking just recognizable imagery, and repurposing it. Right. You know what I mean? Adding some flavor, birthing the whole, pop art, category as a whole. I've always considered myself and described myself as far as the type of artist that I am as a scribe of the times. And I define it that way because all of my work will be relevant to present day. I don't really spend a lot of time or a lot of context in the type of artistry I do that goes back, in history or anything like that. I can appreciate history, and I can appreciate, some of the things that have happened and transpired before we got here, but the subject matters I choose to address, at least at this stage in my career, is usually all around kind of present day or relevant to the things that we're experiencing now.
Yeah, I remember when your work made the Shade Room, and I saw that, man.
Man, yeah, that was super random.
Yeah, it was. I was like,
it was a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. I bet your DMs was going up, man.
Yeah, bro. Like, where did all these notifications go?
Yeah. So I saw that. I was like, that's lit. But, that's what happens when you are aware and in tune with the culture. Yeah. So, like you kind of hit on it already, like the importance of just staying present, and making things that are relatable, that'll get people through their everyday. And, I feel that in antiquity, we had the hieroglyphs and the images on the wall. It was reflective of everyday things that they were going through. That was their own, the Shade Room, if you will. So I think it's dope that you're like a modern day scribe, and your shows will be relevant, to what we're going through, and people can reflect later and see, where we were.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's definitely if we have an alien invasion tomorrow and everybody is extinct, and the only thing that is left is the works of the mankind that used to exist, I would hope that my artwork is a part of that, and whoever the aliens are coming in, they are to know what happened, before that extinction. So, I mean, that may be a far-fetched example, but at the end of the day, though, it's important to document what's going on. And really, on a more serious note, it really is still somewhat of a newer concept to see people of color even represented in mainstream artistry. You know what I mean? And so to really bring that to the forefront of the type of work that I do, I just feel like is more of a, if I'm going to be a vessel to address that matter, then, I'll wear that, and own that with a serious badge of honor.
Yeah, because, in those spaces, we see field artists. Yeah. And I was speaking about this, I think, with Felix. A lot of times, the only representation that we see in those spaces are, race-based trauma or oppression or, slavery. And it's just like, specifically when we go into those higher echelon spaces, like museums and things of that nature. And, it's really a battle that we need to combat. So a question I have for you, with art does a range of things. It invokes emotion. Yeah. It invokes thoughts and conversations about things that are going on. And sometimes it even paints a picture for our future. In your work, and you mentioned some of this earlier, is it more important that you invoke a feeling within someone, or that you make them think about something?
I think it's, I feel like those two are somewhat like one and the same in a regard. Because at the end of the day, I do want you to experience something. If that evokes an emotion in doing so, then cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm good with it. But, at the end of the day, I don't want it to be, my intention is not for it to just be a flat feeling. And so, because, any work that I do produce, I mean, I'll spend a significant amount of time in doing it and with it and everything like that. But I'll have my own set of feelings and emotions that I am trying to convey in this, but how that is received by somebody else is something that I've never been able to understand or try to even predict. Yeah. Take this painting, for example.
Yeah. Different interpretations, right?
The interpretations that I've heard is like, is this Jay-Z? Right. You know what I'm saying? Is this Kanye? Right. Is this, whomever, you know what I'm saying, it may be. Yeah. And
that's what I said when I came in.
Right. It's, but you know what I'm saying, like, It's none of them. You know what I mean? It's none of them. And so, could I anticipate that would have been the feedback that I would have received? Absolutely not. I was like so far off. I didn't even, think that would even be a thought. But that's the beauty of producing art, though, is to allow the interpretation of whoever is on the receiving end to kind of
subjective.
It's super subjective.
Yeah.
The whole industry, the whole space, I mean, the whole essence of artistry is all subjective. Yeah. So I kind of lean into that subjectivity, and I actually think it's kind of dope because you take any other area or any other field, and usually you're confined with like rules or responsibilities or a set of parameters or a set of like, set structure or whatever. But you take this world of artistry, that is super fluid, that has no rules, that has no confinement, that has no barriers, that has no real structure, and you pretty much can make whatever you want with that. So at the end of the day, I want people to feel however they feel. They can hate it for all I, care, but they still are experiencing something even in that hate.
Yeah, and that's the role of an artist.
Yeah.
I think that life is mundane enough and task orientated enough that real art should make you feel something.
Yeah.
Should make you subjectify an experience.
Yeah.
And that to me is the difference between an artwork and being at your desk.
Yeah.
Going home, doing a routine, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Art has to blast through that.
Yeah. And there's some artists out there, or some categories of art forms that solely rely on almost that shock. That explosive type feeling. They're doing something that maybe is politically incorrect, right, or whatever may be the case, but that's the type of artistry that they chose to do, and
right,
it may not be the taste of everybody,
right,
but no matter if you hate it or if you love it, you have an opinion on it, and as long as you have an opinion, then that subject matter has done its job.
Right. Kind of what do you call that? What's the term that they call Kanye? He's
almost said genius.
the term they say his work is it's a term.
Yeah.
Like either love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
But you're gonna feel something.
You're gonna feel something. Man, I can't
but it's a specific term for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the reason I brought that up is it's like Kanye is one of those artists that he really embodies what it means to be an artist and to be expressive.
Man,
love it or hate it.
Man,
he's expressing something.
For me as I've I promise you, every day that goes by, I start to lean into my creativity much more. Just going back a little bit, it took me a while to even understand how to rewire my brain in order to create freely, because I'm coming from more of a corporate space and more of a sector where I am confined with these set rules, structures. This is how you do this, you get from point A to point B, right? And within artistry, you don't really have that. And so to kind of like rewire your brain from thinking in a form of structure or process or whatever, took a little adjusting. And you take somebody like a Kanye, for example, every project he has put out sounds probably a little different, than the last, right? And that doesn't exactly follow, say, a said blueprint that your traditional artist may have. Right. At least a traditional music artist. Now, don't get me wrong, you have people that have different sounds and different bodies of work that have grown or, gone off the course of mainstream or whatever. But you take something like what he's doing now, this last project and the whole touring or traveling with his choir. I mean, I think one of the last things I just saw, he was performing in prisons.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even think of the last musical artist that I've came across that decided to do a performance in a correctional facility.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
this guy,
that is like kind of
this guy just performed on Joel Osteen. You know that preacher that's on BET at night.
Yeah, I know exactly.
He took his Sunday service to that church. I mean, this is just stuff, you know, you're breaking grounds and doing stuff that, you know, other people probably wouldn't even think about.
Right.
You know?
So I mean, at the end of the day, like, love it or hate it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously I can appreciate it, you know what I mean? But there's some people that's just like, oh my gosh, it's like he's, you know what I'm saying, he's selling, you know what I'm saying, religion or like whatever. But at the end of the day, you have an opinion on it. Yeah. And so the art form is doing what it's intended to do.
Yeah, polarizing figure. Polarizing. That's the word. I knew it was going to come.
It came full circle.
Yeah, got it. Okay, cool. So, that's dope. I always like to hear artists' perspective on Kanye. I mean, to me, you know, he's, if not the greatest, one of the greatest artists that we've experienced.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about, you know, because I know you've done mural projects in the past, and, you know, we're here in Chicago, and, you know, one of probably the most popular artists right now is Hebrew Brantley. So, you know, how do you feel about Hebrew Brantley being, you know, that's now that you're here situated in Chicago and, you know, just being in this experience, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you feel about his work? I think I saw that you went to his show. His his Nevermore
Park. You know what I'm saying? Park was ill. It was dope. You know, I am all for everything that Hebrew is doing because I really feel like Hebrew is really breaking down barriers for everyone behind him. And I'm a part of that everyone. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I'm a part of that group. So, you know what I mean? Like him taking a full space out of Pilsen, and Pilsen is a neighborhood that I you know what I'm saying, I'm a part of, have kind of resided in this area for some time now, but taking a space though and providing a three-dimensional experience is something that I personally strive to do. A lot of the work that I've produced currently is two-dimensional. Right. Paintings on walls and things like that. Yeah. But something I really have yet to really speak to, like at least publicly, or really, for that most part, even privately, I don't think I've really talked to anybody about it. But I look forward to doing more experiential artwork. And what I think Hebrew did with that Nevermore Park was a very dope experiential event experience for people to enjoy of all ages. And what's really cool about it is seeing so many people bring even kids, you know what I'm saying, through that event. And I'm looking around at the kids, like running around, interacting with everything that's like set up. And it's like, I'm like, man, this is like so dope. It's like kid friendly. You got adults like taking selfies and all type of stuff. And it's just like, I mean, that's just the power of artistry, you know what I mean, to be able to kind of curate that type of experience. So, hats off to Hebrew, man. I look forward to being able to meet him, chop it up with him one day. Hopefully we'll cross paths, but, you know, I'm sure as long as I continue to on this path, it's just a matter of time. Yeah, for sure. I think what I like about that space and that experience is that it reminds the adult to tap back into the imagination. I think it's so important that, you know, we see things that are not normal, you know, so that it reconditions our mind to think about and explore possibilities that don't exist. Yeah. I think that's so important for artists, of course, as well.
to curate these experiences.
You know, as an adult, like we almost forget how to tap into our imagination.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we get confined, or you know, with, you know, the day-to-day responsibility.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, gotta pay these bills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gotta clock in, or, you know what I'm saying? Whatever that, you know, when you were a kid, if you asked a kid, like, yo, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to do, you know what I'm saying, this, or I want to do that.
Yeah.
You ask an adult same question, it's like, I don't really know. You know what I'm saying? It's